Hello everyone, in this week's video I'm drawing whatever the heck I want. Recently I've been feeling kind of burnt out. This is due to many reasons, and since I am feeling this way, I figured it was time for another drawing whatever the heck I want video. In this video I'll be doing two illustrations. One will be done digitally and the other will be done traditionally. So let's do some drawing and work off these negative feelings. When I decided to do this video, I knew exactly what I wanted to draw first. I wanted to draw Dashing Thief Peach from Princess Peach Showtime, specifically a piece inspired by this scene. The lighting is just so awesome that I wanted to draw it myself. If you don't know, Princess Peach Showtime is a game that will be coming out next month, and in the game, Peach has so many cute outfits. Honestly, I want to draw like all of them because she is just adorable in all of them. I highly considered drawing the mermaid or figure skating outfits, but then I saw this screenshot with the cool lighting, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to draw that one. For Peach's pose, I'm basing it off of this one. I wanted to combine this pose with the background and lighting of this other picture. I definitely knew this piece would be pushing me a bit out of my comfort zone. The first reason is that I am drawing Peach, but I'm also trying to draw her in my style, but also trying to keep Peach's characteristics and features. Like, I don't usually draw my characters with prominent lips, but it wouldn't really feel like Peach if I took this feature away. So yeah, I'm trying to keep the character very much looking like Peach. The second thing is the mask. For some reason, masks often give me issues, like when I draw Miraculous Ladybug characters. But thankfully this one didn't give me too much trouble, and I think it's because the eye openings of the mask are very open and leave a good amount of space around the eye. For some reason, I felt like this made it easier for me to work with, whereas the Miraculous Ladybug masks are almost a part of the eyes, like they become one with the eyes. So I always find them kind of tricky. Third was the hat. I always get a bit nervous with drawing hats since I don't do it super often, and sometimes the hat will look wonky on the head or look out of proportion, even more so since I've never drawn a hat shape like this one before. I've drawn top hats, baseball caps, flat caps, but yeah, I've never really drawn this kind of hat. Plus I needed to have Peach's hand holding the hat. Because I did want the hand to hold the hat, like in my reference, this made getting the position of the torso correct kind of tricky. And I feel like I was struggling with this because of my reference. I kept looking at it and trying to translate it to my drawing, but because I am drawing Peach with less cartoony proportions, I mean they are still unrealistic, but her head isn't as large. Anyways, because my proportions are different, the items are lining up differently with my picture than in my reference, so I was getting confused. I finally figured things out when I stopped looking at my reference. I always talk about how references help us, but they can also confuse us and be a hindrance, and when that happens it can help to just put the reference away. Next we are on to the line art, and for this portion I filmed it with my camera since it's fun to change the footage up and how you all see the process. As usual, I won't make you watch the full line art process, I'll just show you snippets of it. So, I've been feeling burnt out recently, and honestly, even the fact that I've been feeling this way has been a bit of a bummer to me. I thought that after taking my decently long break in January, that I would last for at least a few months and not feel burnt out for a while, but to my dismay, I've been feeling burnt out again. And the fact that I feel burnt out even after taking a break, and I've only been back to work for like close to a month at this point, is making me question if there's something about my workflow that I need to change. Do I need to give myself more time in some areas? Is there a part of the process I need to cut out? How do I keep myself from feeling like I'm on a hamster wheel? These are questions I'm asking myself, and I'm not sure what the answers are. For the most part, I don't mind a lot of my video making process. But I do often wish I could skip the script writing portion, since I usually spend about 80% of a workday writing out what I want to say for a video, so I spend like a handful of hours on it. However, I know that if I skip this step, the video would most likely suffer since I'm not great at talking on the spot and I mess up a lot more or get much more rambly if I don't know what direction I'm going in. Plus, the script helps me pace the video and know how long I can talk about certain topics for. It helps me know if I'm talking about something for too long or if I can talk more about it. Like right now, I know that I should probably move on from this topic for now and start talking about the art again. So the line art and base colors are done, and now I'm working on the background. I decided to make the background in a new canvas, and I'm going to copy it over to my other one. I did it like this because I'm going to lay the background out very flat, but when I move it to the picture, I'm going to transform it to give it a bit of perspective, like in the original scene. The background was fun to work on. It's mostly just a bunch of lines and rectangles. For the random bodies of text, I used a dialogue asset that I have. It is a bit blurry and pixely, but I knew I planned to blur the background, so this didn't bother me too much. I copy the background and transform it like I mentioned, and I also add some chromatic abrasion to it. I noticed that the shot I'm basing this off of had chromatic abrasion, so I made sure to add it. Plus, I think it's a nice touch. The red is very bright, and I do tone it down later because it was starting to hurt my eyes as I was working on this picture. I'll make it pretty dark for a little while just as I'm working on the art, and then I'll make it brighter again. But I don't make it as bright as it was before because I don't want to burn people's eyeballs when they look at the picture. And with the background in place, we can start shading Peach. I'm starting by going around and adding the red and yellow highlights. I usually start with shadows instead of highlights, but they played a big role in this piece, so I started with them instead, since they help define a lot of the different forms. Oh, also, I did apply a multiply layer to Peach, but to make adding the highlights and stuff easier, I selected the colors from when the multiply layer was added, and then changed my base colors to the colors of when they're multiplied, if that makes any sense. Basically, I just changed all of the base colors to the shaded version colors. That way it was easier to apply the highlights and stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I did. So back to the topic I was talking about. If I really did want to get rid of the script writing process, I could go back to how I did things back in the day. Back when I used to make speed paint videos years ago, I would edit all of my footage, export it, and just talk over the footage as it played. But I'm nervous to go back to that way of doing things, since it can be a bit harder to get the pacing right. And instead of making the footage fit my narration, I would be making my narration fit the footage. But maybe I should try doing it one of these weeks, since it may help with the editing process. Maybe it would speed it up a bit. Something else that's been contributing to my burnout feeling is that YouTube revenue is always very low in January and February. And it's not that the low income level is making living hard or anything. We are doing fine. It's well known that YouTube revenue drops in these months, so I plan accordingly. The revenue drops because advertisers aren't advertising as much in January and February. They just aren't pushing advertising as much, and they pay less for it. So that makes it so YouTubers don't get as much. But this low amount, even though it is expected, has still been affecting my mental space. When numbers drop like this, I start to question if I need to focus on YouTube less and focus on something more stable instead, and what even would be a more stable option to focus on. I know numbers will probably go up like they usually do, but in the back of my head, I question what if they don't, and if they don't, what do I do? And all of this thinking and pressure I'm putting on myself has been contributing to this burnt out feeling. But you know what always cheers me up? Shiny things. When I was starting out drawing, I remember drawing Paper Princess Peach, and I loved shading her earrings. They are always so shiny and fun to render. I went a little extra with the earring and added a lot of shinies. I really wanted to make the earring be a bright, vibrant green and wanted to make it pop. But I knew that if I did that, it would draw too much attention, especially since it's the only green object. So I decided to keep it a more muted green, but still shiny. I had applied a good amount of highlights and a little shading to the picture, but now is where I really start going into the shading more, especially on the face. Shading the lips was interesting since they are more prominent on Peach. I'm quite looking forward to Showtime coming out. I'm hoping it won't be too easy of a game. I don't mind more chill, easy to play games. I just hope this one doesn't feel too easy to the point that it's boring. I did hear there will be different difficulty modes, so that's good. Oh, also, I just realized that the Splatoon 3 DLC is coming out very soon. It will be out by the time this video is released, but as I'm recording this audio, it's not out yet. I'm looking forward to playing the side order story thing. The visuals for it look super cool. I haven't played Splatoon in a really long time, so I'll be very rusty, but I'm looking forward to playing it again. Oh, so for the eyes, I thought you might like seeing this part recorded with my camera. There are a lot of dark colors, and my camera struggles with dark colors, so sorry the footage looks not very good, but you can still see what I'm doing. I don't often record any of the rendering process with my camera, so I thought this might be a fun change of pace. I am using my new eye rendering style for this picture. If you want to see an in-depth explanation on that, you can watch this video. Also, I'm very happy I made that chart with the notes. I had to refer to it a few times while working on the eyes. This new eye rendering style hasn't become second nature yet, so having the notes really helps because I can remember what I did. I am a little sad I didn't really get to use my new way of drawing hair in this piece. I kind of just went into my usual habits, but that's mostly because a lot of the hair is hidden and it's styled in a certain way, so I was trying to get it to look the same as Peach's hair. So yeah, but I do get to draw more detailed hair in the next piece, so I was happy about that. The red highlight did give me a bit of trouble. I tried adding it a few different times and actually ended up changing the highlight placement some off camera, but eventually I got it to feel okay, I think. A part of me wanted to give up on it and not add it, but the red highlight in the eye is what inspired this piece, so I didn't want to chicken out and not add it. So here's my finished picture of Dashing Thief Peach. I loved working with the lighting on this one. I don't get to work with lighting like this very often, so this was really neat to experiment with. Plus, I finally got to draw Peach, so I was able to get this out of my system. Next, I wanted to do some traditional art, but before I could do that, I had to clean off my desk because it was very messy. There was a lot of Pokemon card stuff because I was deassembling my decks so that I can make some new ones. My husband and I like to make decks and then battle each other. Also, we got some of the new stuff that came out. I got the Shiny Masquerade set since I didn't have an EX version of Masquerade. So yeah, I got that all cleaned up and put back into the cabinet. We also have some books on my desk. I bought the Create This Book 3 from Mariah Elizabeth. I got this quite a few months ago. I was thinking about maybe doing a video on it, but I wasn't sure if all of you would find that interesting or not. So if it's something you want to see, let me know. I also bought some manga. This is the newest series by Io Sakisaka. She's one of my favorite mangakas and possibly my favorite. I just love the way she tells stories and her art is so pretty. I have like all of her series. And now my desk is clean so we can draw. Yay! But first we need to go back to the computer. Now this sketch is actually something I randomly sketched a few weeks ago. I was thinking of doing a personal piece where I play around with rendering light, but instead I'm going to use this sketch for a watercolor piece because I really wanted to use watercolors, but I didn't really feel like drawing something out. I just wanted to paint, and I had this ready to go, so I figured I may as well use it. I don't have footage of this, but I taped my paper to my tablet screen like I did in a previous video to transfer my sketch to the paper. I really need to get a light pad sometime here soon. The paper I'm using for this is Canson watercolor paper, and the paints I'll be using are Paul Rubens. This is kind of my go-to watercolor set, since it's got a nice variety, but also doesn't overwhelm me with too many colors. And I also just really like the paint, and I have a swatch chart I can refer to for the colors. I should really make some for my other sets. I would probably use them more if they had swatch charts. As you saw, I prepped some paint ranging from yellow to purple, and my idea is that I wanted to use these sunset-like colors for the picture. I'm starting by applying a wash to the sketch that goes from yellow to orange to red and then to purple. I'm making sure that my brush is very wet, and I'm working while the paint is wet so that all the colors mix together. Now this did cause my paper to buckle a lot because I applied a good amount of water. But don't worry, the buckling will go down once it dries. I grab out my heat gun to dry the paper, and once the paper was all dry, we can now paint on top of it. For the shading colors, I'm going to kind of follow the wash of color that I placed. So for a lot of the shading on the face, where it is more warm, I'll use oranges and reds. But as we move away from these areas, I'll use more of the magentas and purples for the shadows. I was a little nervous to work on this picture since it's been a super long time since I last used watercolors. I did use gouache in this video, which is kind of close, but I can't even remember the last time I painted with watercolors. And I've been sitting here for a few minutes trying to remember. For this first pass of shadows, I'm going in very lightly, and as I get a better idea of how I want the shadows placed, I will darken them more and more. So I'm gonna kind of circle back to the topic of feeling burnt out. Sorry if this is kind of a downer topic, but talking about this stuff kind of helps me. Instead of it all just being a jumble in my brain, it feels better if I can verbalize it. And this next point I honestly kind of hate talking about. I don't like complaining about YouTube video views being low because I think it makes me sound spoiled or entitled. Like, wah, my videos aren't getting enough views. But like, it's not even so much about the view amount. It's more of the feeling that I'm regressing instead of progressing. When views are low, it makes me feel like I'm not doing a good job or like I'm failing. I talked a bit about this on my community tab, and you may have seen it, but a lot of my recent videos, excluding this one, have been performing very poorly according to YouTube analytics. And I understand that not every video I make is going to do amazing when it comes to performance. It's just that when I have a streak of videos that aren't doing well, it starts to make me feel like I don't understand my audience or that I'm failing. And I do think I have a hard time understanding my audience because it is very split. There's a group that watches this kind of content and another group that watches this kind of content and another group and another. And I guess I'm trying to make content that is interesting for all of the groups or that I think YouTube will like. But then I end up spreading myself out too thin, or I feel like I'm just trying to please YouTube and the groups instead of myself. And I get that YouTube is my job and I can't just like do whatever I want all the time. I have to do what I think is good for the channel. And don't get me wrong, I did have a ton of fun working on this video and this video. I truly did. And I did learn a lot from them and they were cool to work on. But at the same time, if I'm going to make a video that doesn't perform well, I would prefer to work on projects that I really wanted to work on. Like, I didn't mind that my wedding video didn't perform well because I knew it was more of a passion project, and I personally really enjoyed making it and the end result. But if I work on a project that I'm not as passionate about and it also does bad, it feels like I wasted my time because I didn't get to do something I truly wanted to do, and YouTube is now even more angry at me. Usually I'm okay with making content that makes YouTube or larger masses of viewers happy, so to speak, if it actually does make them happy, because the effort I put in feels worth it. My videos reach more of my viewers, I get to connect with more of you, and the channel grows. And I've been trying to please all of the groups on YouTube with my videos the past few weeks, but then still having them fail, so to speak, is contributing to this burnt out feeling. So honestly, last week and this week, I said to heck with it. I'm just gonna do what I want. I did some concept art for Pariah's story last week, and this week is a drawing whatever I want. I do plan to do a critiquing video next week because a lot of you were requesting it. Plus, I need an easier video to do for next week since I won't have a ton of time to make much for art. But the critiquing videos are pretty quick, and I enjoy helping all of you if I can. Also, I want to say thank you to all of you who gave feedback on that post. It was great hearing what kind of videos you all like to see, and thank you for all the encouragement. It truly meant so much to me. I was really glad that a lot of you said you liked the Drawing Whatever the Heck I Want series, and it gave me the courage to do it for this week's video. Also, I'm sorry if it seemed like I was complaining a lot in this video. Like I said, sometimes I just need to get this stuff off of my chest. And at the end of the day, I am super thankful that I get to share my art with all of you. And there are so many of you that do enjoy my content and take time out of your days to listen to me talk about my art, OCs, and hobbies. It truly means more to me than you will ever know. And I hope it's something that I'll be able to continue to do for a long time. I just need to better figure out a balance for the content I create, and also work on my process for creating it. Anyways, enough of this emotional, feely stuff. Let's get back to the art. Once I was feeling pleased with the watercolors, I decided to tighten things up with color pencil. I'm using a variety of colors. They range from yellow to purple, just like the watercolors. And I switch which color I'm using depending on the area. Like I use orange in the warmer areas and purples in the shadows. I'm really glad I chose this color scheme for this piece. It's an easier one to work with because a lot of the colors do work well together. You do have to be careful of the purple and yellow or orange. If you let them mix, things will get muddy, but for the most part, the color scheme is pretty forgiving. Plus, I just love this color combination. It feels so warm and calm. For the eyes, I decided to go with more of a blue with a warm highlight at the bottom, and it kind of goes to a green. I kept going back and forth on throwing in the blue into the mix of colors, but I thought it would help the eyes pop a bit more. I wanted them to stand out from the rest of the colors. Like I could have gone with purple for the eyes, but the blue just felt more impactful and also helps the piece feel a bit more colorful. And one last touch, I added some red around the highlight. I'm happy I did this for the lower and upper highlight. It added the touch of warmth that I was looking for. And so here's my finished watercolor piece. Also, I'm counting this as my personal illustration for this month. Each month I have a goal of creating a personal art piece. I told myself that I wasn't allowed to use these pieces for videos, but for this month it was easier to include it in the video. I'm selling prints of this piece on my store if you're interested. Getting to work on this video really helped me get rid of my burnt out feelings. I got to draw a character I've been wanting to draw and work with a medium I've been wanting to work with. And I also got to talk out my feelings with all of you. Thank you for being my therapist this week. Also, a big thank you to my wonderful YouTube members and Patreon patrons for your support. It means so much to me. I just learned recently I can upload podcasts to YouTube for members to listen to. In the podcast, I talk about work, life, and answer questions from members and patrons. So if you're interested in that and want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a member. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. You are awesome, and I will see you next week. Bye!